today's video, we're talking about one of Nintendo's strangest controllers. And no, we're not talking about this. Now, when it comes to the world of bizarre video game controllers, Nintendo is no stranger. Like I showed you earlier, the Nintendo 64 controller is a very strange looking controller. And then again, so is the Nintendo Wii controller. But neither of these are instruments. Now I know what you're thinking, instruments have been controllers before. There was Guitar Hero guitars, but before Guitar Hero made its debut in 2005, there was this quirky little controller that came out in the year 2004, and guess what that controller was? Now I know the DK Bongos have kind of become a meme at this point because they've been used to beat games that they were never intended to be played on. But that doesn't quite take away from how cool these things really are. In today's video, in honor of this very strange controller, I would like to just take a retrospective look at the DK Bongos and the entire line of games that it supported. Spoilers, it's only like 3 games. Before we get into it, guys, if you like new and retrospective video game content, consider subscribing to the channel. This is our very first episode of the Retro Bros, so if you like what you're seeing, consider subscribing. But without further ado, guys, let's crack into these bongos. So the year's 2004. The Gamecube is midway through its life cycle with such classics as Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario Sunshine, and Metroid Prime out for the system, but despite all of these great titles, the Gamecube, well, it wasn't doing so hot. During its lifespan, the Gamecube in total sold just under 22 million units, which doesn't sound too bad until you realize the PS2, which was of the same generation of the Gamecube, sold over 155 million units. So yeah. So now that I've given you a pretty good idea as to what was happening at Nintendo when they released the DK Bongos in December of 2004, let's take a look at them. Alright guys, here they are, the bongos themselves. And this is a bundle pack I actually managed to get on eBay that comes with Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Now I know to those DK Bongo enthusiasts out there, this is not actually the original release of the bongos themselves. They originally came bundled with Donkey Konga a year prior. The reason I decided to go with this one was this was the exact one I had when I was a child. So this box and all this is just very nostalgic to me. I know it isn't technically the original box or the very first release of these bongos when they came out originally in 2004, but this is just the box that means the most to me, so that's the reason I went with this one. Unfortunately, the one I got did not come with the game, but that's okay because I already had the game physically, so that's all right. But the bongos themselves are brand new. They are still in their plastic and they have never been opened or used, so that's exciting. Though the box is a little beat up, I was excited to be able to get it. So here's the front art, a DK adventure with bongo pounding controls. And we got the bongos here, the game, DK Bongos controller included. I distinctly remember this guy up here. You're fighting him on a log, and then one of these guys you're fighting in like the rain. But yeah, here's the top of the box, just kind of a smaller version of what we got there. And on to the back here. Look at this artwork. We got a bunch of different screenshots. Here's actually the fight I was just talking about. Yeah, where you're fighting the kind of monk-looking monkey guy on the log there in the middle of the river. And I remember that boss fight as well. I had so much nostalgia playing back through this game, traversing the world, collecting all the bananas on each level, and fighting all these cool animal-themed bosses was so much fun. Get ready for a completely new gaming experience as you drum through an incredible jungle adventure with DK. Grab a set of DK Bongos and use them to guide Donkey Kong through the wild jungle environment, brimming with ravenous enemies and bongo busting challenges. So let's go ahead and bust right into these bongos, and let's start with the top right here. Open this guy up, and this is where the game would normally sit. So just for in-box experience, just imagine this is sitting right here. You'd open it up. Oh my God, you got the game, and you got your little safety menu here where it talks about what you should and should not do with your bongos. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. It gives you some cautions on clapping. If you don't know how to clap, you probably should not be using this product. But as you crack this back, you will see we do have the sealed bongos in here. All right, let me move this out of the way. Come on, bongos. But here they are in their glory, the DK Bongos. Aren't these things just beautiful? Look at them. You got your little DK Nintendo logo right here, your little start and stop button. These little things. Ooh, these are rubber. I don't know what I remember them being, but I don't remember that material being rubber. yeah, this is super nice, and the build quality on this plastic to make it look like an actual barrel. And on the bottom, oh, that's actually pretty cool. You got a little slot where you can stick the end of that. So I guess you want to ravel it up and then just kind of lock it in there so you can kind of keep it contained and in this tight little packaging. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys remember, but right here is actually the microphone. Not only could you beat on these things, but you can also clap, or you can hit the sides like a lot of people did. It's a lot quieter, and it's also a lot easier than clapping, especially if you got to do a lot. You can kind of do like a little drum roll there, whereas clapping is harder to do. It can be done, but I do appreciate that you're able to just hit the sides of these. But definitely bring back a lot of memories for me, just sitting on the floor in my brother's bedroom, just banging on these things. And yeah, the DK Bongos. And now that we're done with the awesome bongos themselves, I want to talk about the large catalog of games that were released to support the bongos. And that's a joke, of course, because there was, as I joked about earlier, there were only 3. We got Donkey Konga, Donkey Konga 2, and then Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. These were the only games in America, should I say, that were released to support the DK Bongos as their controller. There was also a Donkey Konga 3 that came out in Japan, but being that it was not an American release, I did not pick it up for this video, though it is something I might want to add to my collection in the future. But we're just going to take each one of these games one by one, do a deep dive into the complete in-box versions of these. I do have the manuals and discs for every one of these games, so we're going to be taking a look at the cases and everything for these games. Alright, so starting with the very first one that kicked off it all with the DK Bongos. This was released in 2004, packed in with the bongos themselves, Donkey Konga. This is essentially just a Guitar Hero game with bongos. And I know that doesn't sound super interesting, but as a kid in 2004, these were awesome. And I do want to say right off the bat, before we kind of get deeper into this, I did not actually have this game as a kid. The first one I ever had as a kid was Donkey Konga 2. I picked this one up when preparing for this video because I wanted to have them all for the collection and also to talk about. So this is not a game I actually played until I picked it up for this video. So yeah, so let's take a look at the case here. We got Donkey Kong here, got a bunch of friends. This was kind of advertised to be kind of a game that you can sit around with your friends and, you know, just bang around and play with. And is the rhythm in you? And then they also got a Spanish translation. As you can see on this game and case, they very good about making sure there was a bunch of Spanish translations. There's like double paragraphs on everything, including the manual. But Jungle Boogie. And we've got this super cool artwork here. Grab your DK Bongos and let rhythm move you. Clap your hands and drum to the beat in over 30 songs, from your kids' melodies to classical remixes and pop favorites. Donkey Konga puts the music in your hands. And you've got, of course, DK and Diddy Kong right here, and several screenshots from the game here. One thing I was happily reminded of when playing the second one and this one in preparation for this video was the fact that there were mini games in these. I completely forgot about that. I thought these were just essentially Guitar Hero games where we're just playing through songs the whole time, but there are mini games. They're not the highest quality mini games, but they are in fact mini games that use the bongos. So that was a fun reminder for me. Some notable songs that were featured on this, of course, are Blink-182's All the Small Things, which was really just a big deal for me as a kid. Then we also had We Will Rock You, which is just the perfect song to play on the bongos. I do want to say that these are not the real versions of these songs. These are actually just covers, which I did not remember at all, so it was very jarring when I started playing these games. You also got your classic Nintendo songs, like you got the Mario theme, the Zelda theme, your Donkey Kong 64 theme, so there's all kind of fun songs to play on here. Taking a look on the inside of this thing, we got our game and our manual on here. The game looks super cool. You got Donkey Kong and the bongos over there with the Donkey Konga logo. Of course, Gamecube games did feature this little tiny disc, which was always a little strange to me, even as a kid. Here's our manual, and of course it is a beautiful colored manual. Got this cool border, and really just kind of gives you the rundown on how to play a game when your controller is a pair of bongos. Here in the back here, we have a Spanish section. just like they did on the box, which is cool. They were really looking out for their Spanish community here. But yeah, that's our manual. I'm not gonna rag on this game too much. It was a fun rhythm game, which I used to be a big fan of as a kid, but as I've gotten older, I've realized I have kind of phased out of these kind of games. So this one and the second one that I'm gonna talk about here after this, though they are a lot of fun, I do realize I just don't enjoy this kind of game anymore. But it was fun to look back and play a nice fun rhythm games with an interesting controller. Alright, so moving on to the next one. Alright, now on to Donkey Konga 2, the game I actually do have quite a bit of nostalgia for, because this was, like I said earlier, the game I actually had when I was a child, and I definitely remember the songs from this game being just absolute bops. I remember distinctly Headstrong being on here, and also Drive by Incubus. So those were songs that, you know, as a kid I thought were just crazy good. The beat is back. Grab some friends and your DK Bongos and drum along to a fresh set of all new chart-topping tracks like It's Been a While, I forgot that was on here, Wish You Were Here, I think that's an Usher song, and You Don't Have to Call. With over 25 new hits from pop and hip-hop to R&B and dance, you'll never run out of ways to rock. You actually will run out of ways to rock. Cracking this thing open. On the inside here, we do have our manual and our disc here. We don't have Donkey Kong featured on the disc this time, but we do have the bongos here and the Donkey Konga 2. And what's cracking in this manual right here? Try not to mess it up too bad. And then, what do we got here? Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. I've actually did not notice this was in here. I guess it's just a little promotional thing talking about Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. This is actually pretty cool. Oh, and then on the back here, we got all the games that were supported. So we got Donkey Konga 2, and Jungle Beat. This is a cool little thing to have been featured in here. I actually did not realize this was in here. But all right, that's cool. But all right, moving on to one of the cooler attractions, the Donkey Konga 2 manual here. Of course, it is in color, like a lot of manuals were back then. I wish we still had that luxury now, which unfortunately we do not. And we got all kind of cool images of the bongos themselves and Donkey Kong in the top left with this cool colorful border. Man, what a beautiful manual. One difference this one has, which makes it shorter, is there's actually no Spanish portion of the manual. So that's one thing to note. If you are a Spanish speaker, they're not trying to help you on this one. Now on to the final game supported by the DK Bongos. We got Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. And this one, I have to be honest, was my favorite, and looking back on it, is still my favorite. Because the other ones, though they are fun, and I do have some nostalgia, especially for the second one, they are just Guitar Hero games, essentially, with a worse guitar. And the bongos, and though they are fun, there's not as much variety as I would like. Though there are many games, this one brings you to a full story, and you get to actually go on an adventure with the bongos, which is fun. So yeah, this artwork mimics exactly to the big box we were looking at earlier. Super cool. I'm not going to go through this again because we already read it earlier. Playing back through this game, guys, in preparation for this video, it was awesome to see just all these places that I remember as a child, and just revisiting them as an adult was super cool, especially as I was mentioning earlier, these boss fights, just how dark these characters look. Really, as a kid, kind of genuinely scared me, and was cool to revisit as an adult. All the different boss fights were a lot of fun. All right, let's crack this thing open and let's see what we're working with on the inside. We do got our Donkey Kong Jungle Beat with Donkey Kong right there on the disc, and then we got Donkey Kong Jungle Beat over here on the manual. And let's bust this thing out and see what we're working with. Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. All right, got your little safety information, and again we got a fully colored beautiful manual. Got your table of contents, got all your different stuff here about how to walk, how to move, all the different things you're gonna need when traversing through this world with a set of bongos. Yes, super cool manual. I'm super glad to have gotten a complete in-box copy of this. This and the Donkey Konga 2 are actually my original childhood copies, so that's super cool that we were able to hold on to these after all the years, because definitely as kids they did get a beating. Unfortunately, my bongos did not make it from my childhood. I actually have no idea what happened to them, but there were several times growing up that we got rid of our toys, so there is a chance that we did just get rid of them, which, you know, it happens as kids. But I will say about this game, one frustration I do have, and I know it's kind of sacrilegious to say that in this video in particular, but the bongos themselves kind of made, especially traversing the levels, kind of kind of frustrating. I do wish they would have released this with more traditional controls. All right, I'm just trying to make a segue. They did. They did. They released it for the Wii in 2007. So it came out on the Wii. I wanted to kind of touch on this version of it as well, and kind of how cool it was that they took a game that was supported on bongos and gave it kind of more updated controls, meaning that you can actually traverse through the overworld with the nunchuck, and you didn't have to actually use the bongos themselves to actually traverse through the levels. So that was actually, I think, a much needed improvement. And though it was a fun way to play as a kid, as an adult, I did find it kind of tedious. So I am glad they released this version of it. And as you can see, the artwork's pretty much the same as the original. Of course, they, just shrunk, and they got all this Wii stuff on here talking about how you can play with. I'm not crazy about this. I wish they wouldn't have done this. I wish they would have maybe made like an alternate art version or just blown it up. I don't know why we needed all this stuff. I guess they really wanted to differentiate this from the original and just let you know that this is enhanced by playing on here, but I gotta be honest, I'm not a fan. Conquer kingdoms, swing on vines, grab bananas, box bosses. What a tongue twister. And run wild. Oh, I actually did not mention this level, but this was a super fun level where you're riding this like ox kind of dude. There's a couple of these levels throughout the game. You're riding this ox and you kind of have to hop and also clap to get the coins as you go by. Those levels were a cool addition, and also I would say those were actually a little bit funner to do on the bongos because you can beat and he would go quicker, but those were super cool. Use the Wii remote and nunchuck controllers. I definitely think having that nunchuck with the analog stick helped traversing the levels quite a bit, so I think that was super cool. And hold it right there, guys. I am noticing right here in the top corner it says flip for alternate cover. So once we're done looking at the manual of this thing, I'm actually going to flip this thing over. I had no idea that it was even there. Let's get a look at that once we crack open and see what we're working with. In here, we got Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, and of course we got the manuals. And the main difference here being now that it's on the Wii and how you're going to traverse this world using the Wii controller as opposed to bongos. So it actually is quite a bit different than the original manual. Do we got a Spanish in the back half? We do got Spanish in the back half. So a lot of Spanish support from the bongo games. So that's super cool. All right, guys. Now, last thing, I do want to check out this alternate cover that I was talking about. I actually had no idea this was even a thing, but I hope it looks better than this ugly front that's covered in Wii promotional material. And bam! Wow. It's actually just the original case cover, but actually better because they got rid of all the text, so you just see the full image with the waterfall in the background. This looks way better. I was just dogging on how bad it looked, but turns out they included a better way of looking at it. So yeah, awesome. Alright guys, I hope you had as much fun looking at all that as I did, because these were definitely a distinct memory from my childhood that I am really happy to have taken a look back on. So many great memories with these games, with me and my brother just banging and clapping in our bedroom. That is not something I should have said. Probably a lot of frustration from our parents, but we had great memories because of it, so I think it balances out. But alright guys, that is this week's video. If you're interested in weekly, new, and retrospective video game content, please consider subscribing to the channel. But without further ado guys, stay positive and try to get some good sleep tonight. I'll see you next time.